Hello there, Star Wars toy fans. This is Jim, and thanks for taking the time to stop by my channel. If you're brand new to the channel, welcome. I hope you like this video well enough that you'll want to subscribe, and if you're a returning veteran, thanks again for taking the time to stop by. As I mentioned in the Obi-Wan retro video, that's a comparison of the heroes from Return of the Jedi. I'm comparing the vintage Kenner line to that of what I have in my Hasbro collection. And for those of you that follow me, you know that I just collect what I want when it comes to Hasbro. There have been so many releases and variations of different figures throughout the line that you'd have to have a warehouse in order to store all the stuff. So I just buy what I like with Hasbro. Kenner, on the other hand, I'm down to like 5 pieces. And I'm hoping prices are going to come down because I really don't want to pay $450 for a yak face. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this video. And I'm going to split it up into 2 parts. I'll focus on 3 separate figures this time around. And then the next video I'll focus on the other 3 figures. So we're going to start with Luke in the Jedi outfit. Now, this is one of my childhood toys. And the hood cape does come off. And you can see there it's got a real nice sculpting. He's got the black wrist from loss of his hand from Darth Vader. He does fully sit, the arms move up and down, and the head does rotate. And then the vest, or not vest, the cape goes on really nicely, and you can fully see his face. Now, he doesn't happen to hold the weapons all that well. He happens to have this Palace blaster. This is my childhood blaster. And he does happen to also came with a green lightsaber, which I guess there's a blue lightsaber variation out there. I'm not fortunate to have one. He doesn't hold the lightsaber all that well in either hand. I mean, it'll pretty much just fall out. And the blaster's about the same way. It'll fall out with a whole lot of play. So that's kind of disappointing. We'll focus next on the, well, there went Luke off the skiff. Focus next on the Power of the Force 2 figure. And I'm going to start just by going through the description and then going through Stephen Sansweet's book for comparison. So the cape does come off. It's a black cape this time around, made of vinyl, which is, you know, I guess that's cool if you like that. It can stand on its own. He has a lightsaber that he grips really, really well. And this is the Lou Ferrigno Luke, in case you were wondering. He has 6 points for articulation, so the waist does turn, and he can fully sit, though not without the cape. That Luke can. And that's pretty much it with this guy. Now let's take a look at some of the variations that came out at the same time. So in 1999, Stephen Sansweet produced a fabulous book called the Star Wars Action Figure Archive, which goes all the way up through the figures of 1998. And on page 25 of this book, it shows the Luke and Jedi and all the variations. Now, I used to have all these carded variations, and I ended up selling 75% of the Power of the Force 2 series when I needed to restore my Model T. But looking at here, we see that there's 3 carded versions. So we have an orange card with a tan vest, orange card with a dark vest, meaning black, and then a green card without a foil sticker. They had printed on there, and then they all had these kind of mylar stickers on them. Now, without just taking a little bit closer look here, you'll see it's a little, well, quite out of focus, and maybe that's better, but not really. But anyway, there's the tan vest and there's the black vest. At least you can make out the colors. So if you're into variations, that might be the thing for you. The values did not rise with either one of them. Now, with the book does not include this variation, and that happens to be the theater edition. And I used to keep all my carded figures in these sleeves and cardboard, kind of like you would a comic. This came out with the 1997 release of Return of the Jedi, and they only made 100,000 of them. And so this says opening day, March 7th, 1997, and then we have the back here. And this is what I like about these cards. Now, if you watch my Retro Obi-Wan video, then you know why I like these. See all the toys that you can get, all the ships, the figures. All they have is words on the back of the Obi-Wan cards. Just totally boring. And no incentive for kids to buy something. Of course, probably kids can't find them. But anyway, that's this variation. Now the last version that I have here is the guy that nosedived off the Skiff, and that happens to be the Luke. That came with a 1999 Skiff. Now if you have this is really just basically a reissue of the very hard to find 1985 Skiff from the Power of the Force series. You may look at this and say, wait a minute, he's got pegs on his. Well, yeah, that's because I took it apart and added pegs. I also added some extra shading and detailing around where the controls are. And I'll try to remember to leave a link in the video about that if you're interested. Now, the problem with the figures that have a lot of points of articulation is sometimes the sculpting isn't all that great. And I would say that's the case here, depending on how the limbs attach to the body. And you'll see here the legs just sort of, they do fit, but not quite. At least the arms fit at the shoulder nicely within the vest. So as far as articulation goes, he can fully sit. His knees bend. Why you need that, I don't know on this, but that's nice. The shoulder does move. This wrist is the only one that does rotate. He has a little battle damage there. This wrist does not. The waist does turn, and then of course the head turns as well. And then he has this unique lightsaber to him. The foot pegs do not fit on the larger size holes, as none of the Power of the Force 2 ones do. You have to drill them out. So I did not drill those out so we can stand on this. And I did not add thicker foot pegs simply because you just didn't have the clearance underneath for that. Now we'll move on to Leia Boushh. This figure I did not have as a kid, interestingly enough. And this one was hard to find. I'm not sure why it was. Let's see if I can get the video a little more focused. Maybe that's better. Not sure. I could not find it in the stores. And so my wife picked this up for me a couple Christmases ago. It was one of the few in Return of the Jedi I didn't have at the time. And for those of you that have seen my videos, I was 15 in 1983, so my figures didn't get a lot of play wear, and hence this one has quite a bit of wear on it. On the helmet, it does come off nice and easy, and she has 5 points of articulation, so the head turns, and of course she can fully sit. You'll notice that. She's got this big long staff. At the back, we see her cape is molded in, and again, the helmet fits on really nicely. Now, taking a look at the 1996 Leia Boushh, this one was originally released with the Shadows of the Empire series, and then it came out in 1997 on the green card. And so she has the same type of staff, 6 points of articulation, so the waist does turn. That clunk that you heard, that was her cape, which doesn't really stay on. I put some ticky-tack there, and that's worn off. And she has this peg that goes into a hole back there, but it doesn't like to stay on at all. And Leia's holding a thermal detonator. Now the helmet does come off really nicely, and it's got a fairly decent face of Leia on it. Not quite the what they call the monkey face that came out with the Leia from Star Wars. Now the next one we'll look at, and this is the final one we'll do for this series, happens to be Slave Leia. Now this was not produced by Kenner. This was produced by Stan Solo in 2022. And he's done a beautiful job resurrecting the Kenner look. And so she has this Barada type staff. Why, I don't know, but she does. She has 5 points of articulation, so she can fully sit. She has this maroon smock and some really nice gold detailing around the boots and the wrist and the bikini there. And even some nice work there with the head and the ponytail. You can see that it doesn't prevent the head from rotating at all. Stan Solo did a beautiful job, and if you can pick one of those up, I would highly recommend it. This will conclude the video. This is the 1997 Power of the Force 2. And with this Leia, she comes with a chain, so that can be removed. And the head does move. The ponytail does move with it. She has 6 points articulation, so obviously the waist does. She has a vinyl smock, and so she's not going to sit unless you fold that there. And instead of using gold, she has more of a copper tone, metallized. Has this little snake on the side too, which the stand solo does. I know a lot of fans were really glad when this one came out, but I think Kenner just didn't do that for political reasons. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, you found it useful. And by the way, if you're looking for Leia Boushh different variations, there's 4 different versions produced by Hasbro in the 3 3/4 inch scale and 6 versions of Slave Leia. Well, this concludes part 1, and we'll see you for part 2.